Jets will have fewer wins when the earth ends than the New York Knicks do. That is now on the table. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching the Craig Carton Show. That's Tyrone Johnson. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Oh, the best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reese and his literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Baker Mayfield is the most important player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they are in first place right now, looking dead in the eye of home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They played a bad division. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're the best fourth quarter team, or at least the 2-minute warning team in all football. So, don't sleep on that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Awesome and monumentous win against Oregon. Texas has saved their season. Texas has given themselves life to potentially crash the college football playoff party. For OU, a loss to Texas shouldn't be the end of your season. And yet with that remaining schedule, it feels like it could be. Books certainly pricing it that way. A lot of movement off of the Red River rivalry.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Paige or Caitlin? Who do you take and why?
I think for the WNBA, in a sense where they're moving toward more guards when it's been very post and big heavy in the past. But there's a reason why Caitlin Clark set all those records at college and then went into the WNBA and set all those records immediately. I really do think she's just a different level talent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The World Series heads north of the border, plus the NBA tips off tonight on NBC for the first time in 23 years. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from FOS Studios in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington. Thank you so much for joining us. As each and every weekday we chat the biggest stories in the business and culture of sports. We also have the author of a new book about LeBron's time taking us behind the scenes in LA. But first, let's dive into the shoot-around.
Yeah, and let's start with this week's Amazon Web Services outage that powers many websites and apps. Caused disruptions for a wide range of companies, even in the sports world. Ticketmaster had issues ahead of several big games Monday night, including Game 7 of the ALCS, to even NFL games in Detroit and Seattle. Even betting sites like FanDuel, DraftKings, and Fanatics had issues. Amazon says the widespread outage was caused by an error that contained in an early morning software update in their database service, but now seems, Renee, to largely be okay now.
12 hours of a disruption, and as you touched on, so many different companies that are involved because it's the internet, it's cloud, it's a lot of infrastructure. That's everything from government to universities and businesses and food and streaming. So many components that it's concerning, honestly, if something like this happens, just how many people are impacted. So as you've mentioned, there are some reports that have come out about how it started, but we're also hearing is it could happen again.
Oh, sure.
They're saying they've implemented fixes, but they're not sure if it's going to be long term in terms of minimizing this happening again.
All right, meanwhile, golf legend Jack Nicklaus was awarded $50 million by a Florida jury, this in a defamation lawsuit against Nicklaus Companies. They claimed the golfer had considered a $750 million deal to become the face of the Saudi-backed Live Golf, and they spread false claims to various media outlets. Now, in court documents, the golfer's attorneys say a Nicklaus Companies official had asked the golf icon to meet with Saudi reps back in 2021. This about designing a golf course in Saudi Arabia and also a potential leadership role with Live Golf. Now, Nicklaus says he had no interest in the offer due to his long-standing relationship with the PGA Tour, Renee.
And there were so many different allegations that came out that Nicklaus claimed the defendants made, such as saying he was not mentally fit to be able to manage his business affairs, that he was dealing with dementia, the claims about his involvement with the league, and saying how he was selling out the PGA Tour for the Saudi golf. So his team has come out and said they're happy that Jack's name has been cleared and that this has been straightened out.
All right, well, New York, Boston, LA, and San Francisco will be the first 4 teams in the women's Women's Pro Baseball League, with the inaugural season starting in spring 2026. This all according to The Athletic. A virtual draft will happen in mid-November of this year, with each team selecting 15 players for their roster. There hasn't been a professional women's baseball league in the U.S. since 1954. That's when the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League kept ballparks occupied during World War II, and also provided inspiration for the film A League of Their Own as well.
Yeah, there's been so many different attempts to have a women's professional baseball league, 5, and for this to be something that's been announced with the inaugural season in 2026, it's exciting that they have these 4 cities, as they've touched on from their leadership group, of tapping into cities that have massive audiences in baseball, specifically about 35 million residents that they're able to reach in these markets. So intentional about where they're launching, having a salary cap for teams around 95,000, I've heard, but also 15 to 25 players, 7 innings per game, 7 weeks of a season. The pieces are coming together, and now we get to see it get closer to that mid-November draft day.
Well, the World Series starts north of the border after the Blue Jays won a thrilling Game 7 over the Mariners, setting up a big international championship with the red-hot Dodgers. Let's take a look in today's main event. All right, let's bring in FOS reporter Eric Fisher. So, Eric, it really seems like we've got a international World Series here with Toronto and then basically everybody on the Dodgers, who really sort of represents a lot of international players.
We really are putting the world in World Series. The first time that we've had a Canadian team, in this case Toronto again, in the World Series in 32 years. And you correctly point out the international draw for both teams, really, in terms of the player base, that there's going to be huge international flavor. Not only certainly we'll have the domestic viewership in the U.S., but we're going to have big numbers again in Japan like we did last year because of Ohtani and now Yamamoto and Sasaki. But the entire nation of Canada is going to be rallying behind the Blue Jays.
Yes, and not only are we getting the battle of 2 of the top 5 payrolls across Major League Baseball, we're also getting a Blue Jays team that, when you look at the last 2 free agency periods, have missed out on some big-name players, a number of them which are on the Dodgers, the Roki Sasakis. Yep. Of course, we all remember Shohei Ohtani as we were tracking his plane to Toronto. Even Blake Snell and Teoscar Hernandez that were at one point in conversations with Toronto. What are your thoughts on this Blue Jays versus the almost Blue Jays and the Dodgers as an extra storyline that makes people excited to tune in?
Yeah, it's really a great story that, again, the Blue Jays, they've got the entire nation of Canada behind them and a lot of resources. That their ownership group, Rogers Communication, is really one of the most powerful sports entities in the entire world, that got a bunch of other teams, now majority control of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, the regional sports network, a ton of facilities. And it's been a long time coming in terms of trying to harness all that power into getting something that breaks through onto the field. That has now happened, but a lot of the folks within the team and Rogers Communications would tell you there's been a lot of work done to try to improve their processes, and got a lot of internal things done that got us to this point that we are now with the team.
We obviously don't have the ratings for the ALCS Game 7, but given the fact that we've seen the ratings so far this postseason up 30% from last year, the best we've seen in 15 years, and now, as you mentioned, an international audience, especially in Canada, is there a potential that this could be the highest rated World Series we've seen in a very, very long time?
If you put it all together, yes. I think because we don't have the Yankees and we're losing an American team the way the Nielsen numbers are done in the U.S., it stands quite likely that the U.S. audience specifically will go down. But you have to sort of think about this like we thought about the Four Nations hockey tournament back in February, that if you put the American viewership with the Canadian viewership together, you had something very real. Because what's going to happen in Canada is going to be unbelievable. They're already been doing NFL-type numbers in terms of their penetration for the earlier round games. Now that the Jays are in the World Series for the first time in 32 years, sky's the limit.
Yeah, something that's fascinating is when you look at the percentage of revenue that goes back into the payroll for both of these two teams, about 72% of their revenue from last year going towards their payroll this year. As you've touched on, building teams, whether it's through international drafts, free agency signings, developing young talent, to be able to get to this point for the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, it does speak a lot to just how much teams are able to leverage their finances. Eric, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because, again, these are big market, big dollar franchises, and there's a lot of other teams, your Pittsburghs and your Miamis of the world sort of wondering, Colorado, I don't mean to pick on you, but what's going to be sort of happening? What is the next wave for teams like that who don't have the same kind of resources, the same kind of local media revenue, and so on and so forth that these two teams have? And that's going to be very much a fundamental component of the labor negotiations next year between the players and the owners.
Well, one of those teams, the Mariners, obviously got so close, couldn't end up sealing the deal at the end. Obviously, George Springer complicated things last night. But, obviously the Mariners had a great run, not as high a payroll for them. Do you see them continuing on this great success that they've been able to build? And the Mariners will be a force to be reckoned with here in the American League for a while.
I definitely do. Their main core with Julio Rodriguez and, of course, Cal Raleigh, the superstar, they're locked up long-term for many, many years, and a number of their other players are going to be around for a while as well. The next wave is going to be how can they add on that, because this has not been a front and center destination for free agents, veteran free agents when they hit the open market. A lot of these stars have either been homegrown or acquired through trade or Rule 5 draft or some of the other means of acquiring talent. Getting that veteran free agent talent to sort of take them over the top in that next level, that's going to be the thing to watch. But they've now shutting down Root Sports Northwest. They're folding into the league-run media model. There's a little bit more certainty there. That I think they're going to be a player for a while yet.
Well, for the Mariners, this might be their worst loss in the postseason since 2001 with that record-setting 116-team win team. But it makes me wonder, are we going to get a Game 7 for this series, Eric, in your opinion? Are we going to 7, or is it going to be done before then?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be very competitive, but I think the Blue Jays are going to continue to shock the world. My early prediction, Toronto in 6.
Whoa! Eric, I think, is the first person I've heard that has not taken the Dodgers. I love this. Eric, we're saving the tape. We'll play this after Game 6, okay?
Yeah, there's been some history that favors the team that hasn't had as long of a layoff, that the Dodgers sweeping may actually come back to bite them a little bit. So, but I'm riding the wave here, Toronto in 6.
I love this. Of course, Game 1 kicks off on Friday. Front Office Sports, Eric Fisher. Eric, thank you so much. And coming up, the NBA tips off its season tonight on NBC. We get a preview of some of the headlines we're watching next.
Buy or sell, Genty will finish the season as the top rookie fantasy running back. And I guess I would ask this question to you, George. Who the bleep is he competing with at this point? It is so ugly at running back in fantasy. RJ Harvey has done nothing. Omarion Hampton is hurt. Caleb Johnson, does anybody even know where that guy is? He doesn't even play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, what am I missing here? Oh, there's one. There's one that I'm missing. There's one that I'm missing.
I'll name that for you. I'll name the guy you didn't mention there. Well, Henderson's another guy, by the way. The New England Patriots don't trust, right? They don't play him. But the guy that could compete with Genty, would be the name that you said you loved during preseason. You love this guy's name, Cam Scatterbo, right? He'd be the guy. He's right there with them. The only problem for Cam would be, A, it is the Giants. Their schedule is brutal. And B, Tracy should return. So that's going to take away. Cam will be the starters. I think he will be. But Tracy's going to eat up some touches there. So that's my only issues there. But I think he's the guy who competes with Genty for that number 1 overall role, which I'm shocked. I'm shocked that it's not Hampton, but he got hurt. Shocked that it's not Henderson, but they don't like him. Shocked whatever, RJ Harvey in Denver, whatever's going on here. Will he finish the season at his top? This is a little different when I say automatically take the field here because there's only one other guy. I'm going to buy this. Genty's the best guy, but would I be surprised if it's Scatterbo? No, I would not.
Yeah, I'm going to sell this for the guy that I just forgot about in Cam Scatterbo. I guess the only concern that I would have, and it's a slight one, is that in a couple of weeks, Tyrone Tracy comes back.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
All All right, welcome back, everyone, on Front Office Sports Today. That's Renee. I'm Baker, and the NBA season is tipping off tonight on NBC for the very first time in 23 years. But with more games on different streamers, plus a whole ton of stars injured to start the season, what's the outlook for this upcoming season? Let's bring in FOS reporter Colin Salau. So, Colin, let's start first with NBC. Kicking things off, as I mentioned, the first time in 23 years, and we're starting to learn a little bit more about what Michael Jordan might even be doing with NBC, too.
Yeah, I mean, we were all wondering what Jordan would be doing, and I think there was a little bit of an expectation that it wouldn't be a massive role, right? Jordan has always been a pretty secretive guy, and kind of like LeBron, he's always been calculated with what he's doing. So I'm not really surprised that his role is more of kind of a, I guess, like recorded type of thing rather than like impromptu. But at the same time, I think it's still going to be something people are going to look for, right? Like if Michael Jordan does literally anything, people are going to watch it. And I will be watching it. We all watched The Last Dance. So any little bit of Michael Jordan in the public, I think, is still going to be interesting.
Yeah, and of course, the first year this NBC deal also comes at a time the NBA is tinkering, changing so much in terms of their media coverage, especially, you look at the success of Inside the NBA, shifting to ESPN, and other things, including more streaming opportunities. What are your thoughts on the NBA leaning into their younger audience, highlights, streaming, and do you think this is truly going to essentially almost in a sense, sabotage what's been working well at the sake of hoping that they can do something better?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I think it's what's going to define a lot of the business side of the NBA this year, right? Whether fans will care and try to look for each of these games, not only on Peacock, but also on Amazon Prime. There are going to be days this year where the national game is Peacock exclusive, is Amazon Prime exclusive. I think Amazon Prime, everybody has kind of Amazon Prime, at least for the most part. But right now, NBC is starting to really lean in on Peacock. Will people subscribe to Peacock? We saw people do that for not only the NFL, but for the WWE. Their fans came in and subscribed to watch. But now it's going to be a test whether the NBA, specifically for regular season games that have already been kind of criticized as of late as not mattering as much, will fans try to come out and watch those games? It's interesting that the NBA is trying to the NBA strategy, right? They did pull out this whole strategy of 3 different partners with streaming services, and now they're trying to kind of educate fans on how to watch these games, right? They released this recent thing called Tap to Watch, which is if you go on the platform, here's where you watch the game, essentially, whether you go on the app. Will it work? I think that's going to be the big question that we're going to look for throughout the season.
Especially because people have been ingrained over decades of them being games being on the same platforms, of knowing where they can find the games at on Mondays or Tuesdays. We know, Colin, also the NBA relies on star power to really drive home the league as well. But when you have so many stars like Jason Tatum and Halliburton and others who are out for the whole year because of an injury, and then you have people like LeBron who are going to miss a lot of games as well for their injury as well, is that sort of starting the league off on sort of not the best footing when the stars are not going to be there for the ratings?
Yeah, I think it's another thing that's going to be a really interesting point to start the year, because this is the first time in 23 years that the league won't have LeBron to start a season, right? And but to its, I guess, from looking at it at a positive spin, the league is looking for its new stars, and this is year 3 of Wembanyama. What happened in year 3 of LeBron? Well, he made the playoffs, and soon after he made the finals. So this could be the year that Wemby cements himself as the next LeBron. Does that work when that Wemby is in San Antonio? Well, LeBron was in Cleveland. So, maybe this is the chance for the league to start to really lean into its new stars with this new, media rights deal. Maybe they've spoken to NBC, Amazon. Let's try to push these young guys. Obviously, SGA hasn't necessarily worked, but the opportunity is still there. And of course, we have Cooper Flagg, who could be a generational talent and one that is American. I think we have to remember that as well. Ultimately, the NBA loves its international players. You could argue that its 5 best players right now are international players.
It's true.
But will a guy like Cooper Flagg or even to another extent Anthony Edwards kind of step up and be the American star that the league has kind of been searching for at least for its domestic audience.
Well, the league's also been searching for trying to find a way to generate more excitement at the start of the season. Of course, competing with things like the World Series, NFL, you're getting into postseason games for all soccer leagues, and they've tried the NBA Cup, they've tried other aspects just to generate more excitement from the fans, but also even for the players to play more games in those early stretch of the season. And with last year's ratings down early in the season, it led to a lot of chaos and people having concerns about the NBA, yet despite that, by the end, it was back on track. What are your thoughts? Is this year going to follow suit with what we've seen in the past, or do you think they are finally getting the right combination of ways to roll out the start of the season?
I think it's going to be, again, I'm going to be interested to watch it because the dip last season, as you mentioned, was at the start, which means the NBA has leeway, at least comparing year to year, at the start of the season. So we could be seeing headlines early on of the NBA just getting massive ratings, especially because the games are going to be on NBC, which are over-the-air games versus cable TV. I wouldn't be surprised. And not only that, Nielsen's new way of measuring ratings, the big data plus panel numbers, have been boosting ratings across all sports. So I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA starts being like, hey, we have double-digit increases to start the year, when, if you actually look into those numbers, it's really just because the year-on-year comparisons are, different. And the other thing I want to say there is, how are we going to look at these streaming measurements, right? There's not a lot of comparison points for whatever even Netflix releases when they release their numbers. It's very difficult to kind of paint a picture of that, and I'm sure the leagues will try to make it look like they're doing very, very well.
Colin, in the 60 seconds we have left with you, obviously the offseason drama was dealing with the Clippers and the company aspiration, allegedly giving money to Kawhi Leonard under the table. How much of that investigation that Adam Silver says will take a while really sort of overshadow the rest of the year for the Clippers?
Yeah, I think it overshadows the rest of the year for the Clippers and for the whole NBA, to be honest. Like, a lot of people are looking at what's going to happen here. Are the Clippers going to be, punished for this? But also on top of that, the Clippers are hosting the All-Star game this year in the Intuit Dome. And everyone is going to gather in Los Angeles for that. I think it's going to be a very big, overarching theme of the league, what the league decides to do, if at all, by that time.
Yeah, good point. Colin Salau, FOS reporter with us. And we got more Front Office Sports Today headed your way, everyone, right after this quick break.
You just see Texas in any game, and again, Kentucky used to be able to put up points in the past. 43.5 is crazy because it just feels like Texas is going to come in, play really good defense, and try to squeeze this game out. It'll be interesting to see because nothing got ailed from that victory last week. Texas is back. I'm just being facetious at this point, but if we see one of those performances, 17-14 Texas
in the fourth quarter,
yeah, come on,
right? I mean, really? I mean, they got a gift last week.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. It looks like the Bengals fantasy pieces are back. What did you make of that Joe Flacco performance on Thursday night? Turning back time.
Yeah, it was great for a guy like me with gray in the beard. I love seeing it. I love my representation. But at the end of the day, just from a wagering standpoint, if this continues, it'll give some consistency and it'll give some value back to those tools that you were mentioning on the Bengals.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Defense is above average this year, and I think big picture they're going to be probably the most consistent moving forward. The problem I have is this guy, Trevor Lawrence, big picture. You got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly sometimes is real ugly. He is not comfortable in the pocket on a consistent basis, and that's a problem.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We've had an undefeated regular season a couple times in the NFL. The Patriots, of course, did it before losing in the Super Bowl to the Giants. The 72 Dolphins, of course, did it en route to a Super Bowl win. But to go winless is harder than to win every single game. And my New York Jets are well on their way to doing this.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee, Washington, and Baker Machado. We know the Lakers are no strangers to drama, and a new book looks inside LeBron's tenure in L.A., all from drafting Bronny to his relationship with Russell Westbrook and the Buss family as well. So let's bring in Yaron Weitzman. He's author of the new book, A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers. Yaron, great to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. I guess let's start off with, how would you sort of summarize LeBron's tenure with the Lakers, and do you actually see him ending his career there?
Okay, we'll hit those separately. And thank you for having me, guys. The way I would summarize his tenure of the Lakers, it's just weird. How's that for an authorly word, right? But just really weird, up and down. It's hard to say it wasn't a success because they got the title. They also missed the playoffs a lot. I'm speaking to the Lakers fans also. Lakers fans have this weird connection with LeBron, or lack thereof. I think the fact that the title happened in a bubble year during COVID, no parade, no fans, I think that robbed. There's a lack of an emotional connection between him and the fans that just never formed. And just up and down, just really strange. And it's going to be really weird to think that this is going to be year number 8, I believe, of the Lakers. That's his longest single consecutive streak with the whole team. Obviously, was with Cleveland more than the 2 times, but just it's like, we don't do this in basketball, but like the baseball thing, who would you go into the Hall of Fame as, which hat? He wouldn't be a Laker, but you'd have to consider it, even though it's strange. So again, that's not really answering your question, but just this weird up and down, a bit all over the place. And do I think he's going to end his tenure there? The answer I've been giving to this is I don't know, but the reason I say that, it's like I think he doesn't know either. Yeah, and to your point, a lot of confusion around this era of LeBron with the Lakers. And once the trade was official with Luka joining the Lakers, it led to more confusion as to if this is truly just a move to help with the passing of the torch of the new face of the franchise being Luka moving forward, or if this is the Lakers taking steps to maybe push LeBron out. What are your thoughts on what Luka's emergence with the Lakers means for the future of LeBron? So I don't think it was pushing out. I think it was a trade. I mean, that thing is so fascinating because it really, and actually I was finished with the book before that, and then the trade happened and we had to open it back up because I was like, this is really it, right? Like if we're talking about the LeBron Lakers, this is the end, right? Like that is a stamp on it. It's no longer his team. And even you could see Rob Pelinka, the general manager, like it's this stuff I noticed. At the press conference welcoming Luka, he's thanking Luka's agent Bill Duffy and Luka's whole management team, and like it's not only we no longer with LeBron, we're no longer shouting out Rich Paul and Clutch Sports. Like we've moved completely to a new group here, right? The part that's weird is LeBron understands that. I think Luka's one of these guys where like there's such universal respect for how good he is, and he kind of plays like LeBron a little bit, right? The way he approaches the game is sort of a chess master on the court. So I think, or I know LeBron loves Luka, has no issues, is cool with that. We even saw that last year. He could have asked out.
Obviously, you uncovered a lot of really interesting nuggets in this book, including sort of the fractured relationship between Russell Westbrook and LeBron James, the sort of internal family pressure and LeBron's agency putting pressure on Rob Pelinka to draft Bronny. I guess at the end of the day, what do you think was the most stunning piece of information that you uncovered that is revealed in this book?
The other part I found really interesting is how Jeannie Buss runs the Lakers. Just you have to understand there's like a psychology there where her brothers try taking the team from her, and it's we can spend 2 hours talking about the Buss family, but her brothers try taking the team from her, and it really seems like her response to that was to insulate herself and surround herself with lifelong friends, partners who she believed she could trust. So Rob Pelinka, Kurt Rambis, Linda Rambis are really the main 3. And it's sort of like a leader, maybe not getting all the information sent to you because you have this circle around you that's sort of keeping certain things out, or they're running things. So that to me was, I guess, the extent of which that was the case that surprised me and I found interesting.
Yeah, well, I want to talk more about the Buss family because I'm curious if, as you were writing your book, you got any inkling that they were looking to sell the team, and really essentially, what are your thoughts on how we've seen ownership transcend around the sale and everything afterwards?
So I'm glad you asked that. So the answer is no, I didn't get an inkling, but I think, to me, we still haven't gotten a good answer as to why Jeannie Buss sold the team, right? Like that has not been answered. Everyone just says, oh, you can't say no to the $10 billion valuation. I mean, Jeannie Buss is not lacking for money. The way the Lakers, the trust was set up, they were getting $1 million, whatever the number. Jeannie never wanted to sell the team. Not only that, she's talked so much about how it was her father's dream to have the Lakers stay in the Buss family, that be his legacy for years and all that. And that lasted 15 years, not even like one full generation. So to answer your question, I got no inkling, but I also don't think we don't know why. We haven't been given a good explanation as to why this decision was made. And maybe it was the money, I guess, but that just, if it's the money, then I need to know why. I mean, don't need to know. She needs to be asked or explain why that all of a sudden carried more weight than all the stuff she said about carrying her father's legacy into future generations.
Exactly, and how this all is going to work with the Walters, running this. Basically, are you going to see some sort of similarities between how he runs with the Dodgers, all that stuff? Yaron, what an amazing book! Can't wait to read it. It's available right now. It's called A Hollywood Ending: The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers. Yaron Weitzman, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, friends.